In the middle, this is a African cherry. It's known as bubinga, and this is maple over here. So laminates are much stronger than one piece. So we use laminates quite a bit. And this is sawn out, and after it's sawn out, this part of the instrument, you can see that, is where it attaches to the body. This is done, cut out. Okay. The fingerboard is glued on. That's the part here we were talking about before where the frets go. Then if you look closely, I don't know if you could see it or not, but there's little lines drawn on here, and that's where the inlays would go, as the inlays, these mother-of-pearl inlays in this one. Mm-hmm. Actually, these are not mother-of-pearl inlays. These are snail shell, so it's a little bit different, but it's similar.
What is mother-of-pearl? We have some of this stuff. Is this a good time to show some of this right now?
Yeah.
All right, suppose I do that. I'll point, if I can get the camera to come in, to some what I think is mother-of-pearl. Is it correct that I'm putting up here?
Those are called abalone. They come from an abalone shell. Almost all essence of pearl, whether it be abalone, snail shell, various other types of shells, come from sea creatures, usually a shell form of some sort. There are people who use jade for inlays and the gems, various types of stone, but most of them are
Would this
shell.
be considered a mother-of-pearl, though, right here? This
actually, the mother-of-pearl is the inner part of the shell. You ever go walk on the beach and you find a shell and it's shiny on the inside? That's the mother-of-pearl. That's what it's called.
I found a lot of things on the beach, I'll tell you that. That's another story, though. But anyhow, this is what you insert into the section that you just showed us. Is
yes. Now you can see those little clovers.
These?
Yeah. And
what are those?
Those are snail shells. And here we have another guitar. This is a solid body guitar. And these are inlaid into the fingerboard. The same little pieces. I sawed them out of...
you made the design of these shells right here? You cut them out?
Cut them out and inlay them into the fingerboard. And this fingerboard is ebony. And we were talking before about laminates.
You've got more patience than my family doctor, really, to do
well,
like
it
that.
Takes a lot of time. It does. It's a slow process. That's one problem about making custom-made instruments. I only make maybe 8 to 12 a year.
Wow.
Once in a while, 14 instruments a year. That's kind of rare. But most of the time, it's between 8 and 12. And most of them are fancy, as we'll get into see later, and why it's so hard to do all these things. Now, for mass production, you could probably, some factories are making 200 a day.
Wow. Should we talk a little bit, since we have the camera up close, about what I have on my desk?
Yes.
This, I assume, is, these are made of wood except for this one, I think,
right.
Shell.
That's mother-of-pearl. That's mother-of-pearl. That came from clam shells.
But these are wood, are they not?
They are wood. They're maple, dyed in various colors.
You do the dyeing also?
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we buy veneers that are pre-dyed. Now, that one you have your pen on now, that's called lace wood. That comes from Australia. That's a natural form.
I see. And how do you get it into that veneer? You have to shave it to get it?
We could buy it in veneer. I brought some pieces with me. The flowers, as you see them, are drawn out on a block.
Yeah,
block
could
like
you kind of
this.
hold that still so that they can see? Maybe turn toward that camera, Phil. Okay, hold it just like that. They're drawn on a block of wood, which is really a group...
it's various pieces of wood held together by little nails, and you can see the nails bent over. And if we turn it sideways, you see various layers of wood.
Different colors.
Different colors. And these different colors are the different veneers held together by the nails. Now, after the picture is drawn on here, whatever it may be, I brought this piece with me because it matches the piece on your desk. I have a special little saw that saws out this. You have to do it by hand. It's slow. And after you cut it all the way out, you take out the pieces, and you have, in this application, we have 6 different layers of veneer. So when this comes out, we have 6 different colored flowers, all the same shape.
It's marvelous. Now, could you show how they fit into the what is it you call it? I'm just going to call it the handle, so you fire me right off the bat.
As you can also see on your desk, you have one of this shape.
That would be this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
and that is inlaid into this background. Now, this background of this piece of wood here is called burl redwood. And the piece I cut out, this particular dark-colored piece, is in the walnut family. It's French walnut. And these pieces are about the thickness of a matchbook cover. That's how thick they are. They're about 30 thousandths thick if you measured them with a micrometer. And then they're sawn out in the same manner that we just described. And then the background is also cut out in the same way. The pieces are held together, maybe 4 or 5 of them, and then the inlay shape is cut out. And it's like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. After you cut out one piece, the piece that you remove will be replaced by one of the pieces we have there on your desk.
I think I'm just going to show one of these plaques on this show because I want them to see a finished piece of work that ties in with what you were just talking about. This now would be what?
This is called marquetry. Marquetry is an ancient art form where you take various types of veneer, like we've been describing, and assemble them by color or grain texture, cut them out into various shapes of flowers, or you're probably familiar with parquetry, which is parquet floors, geometric shapes or whatever. And these pieces are assembled into a background, and a picture is formed.
You did this yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would this one is just a plaque, is it not?
Yes.
But this is what you would do to put on a guitar if
yes.
someone wanted it.
Yeah, I have a guitar here with some in it, so we can
we'll
talk
show,
about
I think, that later when we show a finished piece. Okay. Now that you've gone that far, what's the next step in
okay, after we
making?
determine these various things that we started out with, and the materials are figured out of what kind of sound we want to use, and we'll hypothetically say we're going to use rosewood, because I brought some rosewood sides with me. You have a set over there, which are rough
Maybe
sawn.
we should show that too. I wasn't going to, but perhaps why not? Because there's an important part of this rosewood that I think you might want to tell the people about. What are those, in a moment the camera will have, what are those white grains going through there?
The white particles that you see in the wood is calcium deposits. And this particular wood that Karl's holding is from India. It's a quarter sawn rosewood. The calcium deposits come from pollution in our atmosphere, and it causes the chemicals to leach out, hard metals, heavy metals, to leach out of the soil, and it gets capulated into the roots of the trees, and thus the calcium and other heavy metal deposits grow up into the tree, and you get that effect. It's an undesirable effect. It's not something you look for. You can't get rid of it. You can dye the wood and get rid of it.
In fact, we're poisoning our trees.
Yes, we are, with acid rain, sulfur dioxide, nitric acids.
Now, in the interest of time, Phil, what would be the next step now?
The next step is, that was rough sawn wood that you saw there.
Okay.
And then they're sanded down to about 1/8 of an inch.
All right.
And then they're bent.
I would imagine you have to steam them to bend them?
No, these are bent dry.
They're bent dry?
There's no steam used. Steam makes wood have a memory. Eventually it will go straight again.
Is that right?
These are bent with heat, and they're bent dry.
And now what makes them hold the shape?
Well, when you heat the wood up, and particularly rosewood's kind of an easy wood to bend because it's very tarry. And when you heat the wood up, it melts the tar in the wood, and it also softens the wood fiber, so you can force it into this shape, and it will stay that way. I bent these when I was 17 years old. I'm 39 now, and they've been bent this way all these years.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now, you can see they're out of shape, and I did that for a reason. I use these in a lecture series that we do in colleges, and I did it to show that you can bend these things into almost any configuration you can think of. But I did this for a reason, so you could see how much you could spring this. See this?
Yeah, it's marvelous.
It's like a piece of steel. You know, it's incredibly strong. So I did that for that reason, so you could show the spring. So this is Brazilian rosewood. This is a different kind of rosewood than the Indian. The pore structure is different, and the weight per cubic foot is different.
Now, you put that together,
Okay,
and
these are bent into the particular shape that we're going to make the guitar. After they're bent, this happens to be a cutaway guitar, which this designates the cutaway, this area in here, so you can reach up and play in this area. After that's done, these blocks, this block up here, which is made out of mahogany, and there's another block down here, which is made out of mahogany, are glued into the sides to hold it in shape. So now, after the glue dries, we have the guitar. It's pretty well in shape. Then this other thing here is called the lining.
okay,
This is glued on to hold the top and back onto the sides. We need gluing surface.
okay.
So this gives us some gluing surface all the way around, both sides. Here's the back. Around that side too. Now inside, you see these little pieces. These are mahogany also. These are side braces to prevent damage from occurring from an impact to the side, like if you banged it against a table or your
like a
knee.
little strut in there.
Yeah, and that's what they're for. They're for preventing cracks, and they work quite well.
All right.
After this is done, the back is then formed.
That is the back.
This is a roughed out back. This is made out of curly maple. And you can see these inlay stripes inlaid into the back. We make them also. And on the other side of the back are braces. Now the braces are there for two reasons. One is to strengthen the back so it doesn't break. Two is to tune the back. As we add wood to this, and by carving, you can see these are roughly carved out.
Yeah.
And these will be finished, scraped, and sanded. And as I do that, I can tune this to a particular note when you tap it. Now, the whole instrument is done that way, except for the neck, because most of the time you can't do it with the neck because you're making it to a specific size to fit someone's hand. But everything else can be done that way.
Now, the front goes probably
So-
designed very similar to that.
Front is designed similar, yes. That over there. This is the front or the top. The top is made out of German silver spruce. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick, same as the sides and the back. As you can see, there's an inlay glued in here, and this will be all sanded down. This is in a rough form. And this inlay, these little white lines around the edge are ivory. The wood is burl walnut, and the little clovers in here are snail shell, and they're inlaid into the
Isn't
top.
that something?
Yeah.
Now, from there we go to assuming
other
that's
side.
assembled. Oh, I see. I
The other
forgot that.
side
Yeah.
is, again, we have braces. They're there for structural reasons, and they're there for controlling tone. So, again, they have to be placed in specific areas, and they're shaped in various ways, to not take enough wood off to damage the structural integrity of the instrument, but take enough wood off so the top will respond well. And you can do that by flexing it. You can bend it in your hands, and with enough experience, you have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be like. After these are roughed out, these will be all scraped down and sanded, and then the top will be tuned again, so when you tap it, it'll produce a note.
The same note as the back?
Same note as the back,
That's
usually A.
amazing.
Tuned to A. After that is done, the top and back are glued onto the guitar. And then another process is done. We'll grab one of these, which would be easier to explain. A process is known as the binding. The binding is, you can see this little red line.
Yes.
There is a separation between the sides, a little red line, and another piece. This little thin piece is bent. First, there's a groove cut out in the guitar to accommodate this area. Then they're bent into this shape and glued into place. That's done all the way around the guitar, and you can see it goes all the way around.
Isn't that amazing?
And you can see this one here has an inlay in the side.
Show them that beautiful piece of inlay there, right there, on the front, on the side there. I see it. No, well, I guess both, but I see it from here. It's beautiful. My goodness.
And not only is there the binding around the edge, this prevents damage for the end grain for tapping on the side or hitting it into something, and it also prevents moisture from entering the end grain of the wood.
How long to make that guitar?
This guitar is about 5 months.
5 months?
Yeah.
My,
There's approximately 165 inlays in this guitar. This is my wife's guitar. This was made in 1972.
If I wanted to offer to buy that from you, what would you charge me?
To make guitars like this is our Masterpiece series. They're $3,000. They start at $1,800, the basic shape, and they go to about $6,000.
You take a check from my rubber plantation, would you?
The normal guitars, the guitars like this shape, like I had before, and some of the solid bodies start at about $700. So this is a pretty fancy one. And we were talking before about laminations. You know, if the camera can see this, you can see there's ebony lines laminated in there. Very fine ebony lines and inlay work up on the top with laminations. The laminations are very strong. You see them in church buildings, gymnasiums, short pieces of wood glued together in massive blocks. And it's extremely strong.
That's really something. Now, that is not what one would call an electric guitar.
This is an acoustic guitar, but it does have a pickup in it. As you can see, there's a jack hole here.
Okay.
And you can plug a pickup, an amplified line into that. And I have a patented pickup that's inside this guitar. And we use them on all our acoustic guitars, a special patented. Bruce uses them, James Taylor, a lot of other people.
It's such a beautiful instrument. Why don't you just pluck a few of the strings and let us hear what it sounds like?
The hard thing about making string instruments is getting separation between one string and the other, so it's very understandable. Like when you strum a chord.
Did I tell you I used to play the guitar? I had to quit. I broke my G string. Would you fall for that? You wouldn't fall for that. Anyhow, tell me about an arch top. What is that?
Arch top guitars are like big violins in a sense, except that they're plucked instead of bowed. Now, arch top guitars are usually made from solid pieces of wood. I brought something interesting you might like to see. This is a back.
Yes.
This is a carved back. This piece of wood started out at about an inch thick, inch and a quarter actually, and then this surface was carved into it. This, you can feel this arch, it has got its name, the arch top, and the inside, you can see, is hollowed out, so it's cut out inwardly. This is also tuned, and the top is made in the same manner. Now, the reason that instruments were made like this was, first, it was to mimic the violin in the bowed instrument family. Secondly, these instruments were very prevalent in the early big band days. Jazz guitars, any kind of orchestrational kind of music, you usually find guitars like this because they have a unique ability to cut through the horn section, to be heard over the piano, so they have a unique kind of quality sound. Most of them now are amplified. They have various types of electronic pickups, but their original intentions were acoustic, and they were amplified, or they were played acoustically to cut through the horn section and the piano. So you could hear it was a distinct sound. It's interesting, if you listen to a lot of the old big band music, you can always hear the rhythm guitar player in the background. And when he stops, you can tell when he stops, if you listen carefully. It's just a unique, distinct type of output of his guitar.
I have a note here about solid guitars, or have we...
Solid body guitars. Yeah. I have one here. I brought one that I'm working on. Solid body guitars, as you can see, this is a solid block of wood. This happens to be French walnut, and this happens to be French walnut and maple inlaid in there. Now, this works strictly on electronics. There isn't any acoustic ability to this.
You don't need a sound box.
No.
Just plug it in and go.
That's what these holes are for. These holes are to place pickups in, and you see holes in here. These are for various switches and controls, which are mounted in this pocket here cut out. Then there was a jack which would be made in the side. This would go to an amplifier.
Okay.
And it would be strictly electronic.
That's my kind of guitar. You know, that's built for me.
Well,
Heavy,
the thing
ready to
about
go.
this, I'll give you an example. One of these guitars,
Yeah.
I could make probably 3 or 4 in the time it takes to make an acoustic guitar.
I would think so. The workmanship doesn't have to be.
The archtop
Yeah.
guitars, when
Yeah.
you carve them all out, I could probably make probably 8 of these to one of those.
Speaking of time, and everybody is. In fact, my brother is doing it, but that's another story also. I want to thank you for taking the time to come to me tonight. In fact, you're such an interesting, fascinating man. I'm going to invite you back next week, and we're going to take a tour of your workshop. So you people who have watched tonight's show, please don't fail to tune in next week. You're going to enjoy that one, too. In the meantime, thanks for watching tonight. I'm Karl Deigert. Good night.